There was once a king, and he had a queen, and he was the manliest of his sex, and she was the loveliest of hers. The king was, in his private profession, under government. They had 19 children, and were always having more. 17 of these children took care of the baby, and Alicia, the eldest, took care of them all. Their ages varied from 7 years to 7 months. Let us now resume the story. One day, the king was going to the office when he stopped at the fishmonger's to buy 1.5 pounds of salmon, not too near the tail, which the queen, who was a careful housekeeper, had requested him to send home. Mr. Pickles, the fishmonger, said,
"Certainly, sir. Is there any other article? Good morning."
The king went on towards the office in a melancholy mood, for bonus day was such a long way off, and several of the dear children were growing out of their clothes. He had not proceeded far when Mr. Pickles came running after him and said,
"Sir, you didn't notice the old lady in the shop."
"What old lady? I saw none."
Now the king had not seen any old lady, because this old lady had been invisible to him, though somehow visible to Mr. Pickles. Just then the old lady came trotting up. She was dressed in shot silk of the richest quality, smelling of dried lavender.
"King Watkins the First, I believe."
"Watkins is my name."
"Papa, if I am not mistaken, of the beautiful Princess Alicia."
"And of 18 other darlings."
"Listen, you are going to the office."
It instantly flashed upon the king that she must be a fairy. Or how could she know that?
"You are right,"
said the old lady, answering his thoughts. Yes, better.
"I am the good fairy Grand Marina. Attend. When you return home to dinner, politely invite the Princess Alicia to have some of the salmon you bought just now."
"It may disagree with her."
The old lady became so very angry at this absurd idea that the king was quite alarmed and humbly begged her pardon.
"We hear a great deal too much about this thing disagreeing and that thing disagreeing. Don't be greedy. I think you want it all yourself."
The king hung his head under this reproof.
"I will not talk about things disagreeing any more."
"Be good then, and don't. When the beautiful Princess Alicia consents to partake of the salmon, as I think she will, you will find she will leave a fishbone on her plate. Tell her to dry it, and to rub it, and to polish it till it shines like mother of pearl, and to take care of it as a present from me."
"Is that all?"
"Don't be impatient, sir. Don't catch people short before they have done speaking. It's just the way with you grown-up persons. You are always doing it."
The king again hung his head.
"I will not do so any more."
"Be good then, and don't. Tell the Princess Alicia, with my love, that the fishbone is a magic present which can only be used once, but that will bring her, that once, whatever she wishes for, provided she wishes for it at the right time. That is the message. Take care of it."
"Might I ask the reason?"
"Will you be good, sir? The reason for this and the reason for that, indeed. You are always wanting the reason. No reason. Hoity-toity me. I am sick of your grown-up reasons."
The king was extremely frightened by the old lady's flying into such a passion.
"I am very sorry to have offended you, and I won't ask for reasons any more."
"Be good then, and don't."
With those words, Grand Marina vanished, and the king was home again.
Then he politely invited the Princess Alicia as the fairy had directed him,
to partake of the salmon, and when she had enjoyed it very much, he saw the fishbone on her plate, as the fairy had told him he would, and he delivered the fairy's message, and Princess Alicia took care to dry the bone, and to rub it, and to polish it till it shone like mother of pearl. And so, when the queen was going to get up in the morning, she said,
Oh, dear me, dear me. My head, my head.
and then she fainted away. The Princess Alicia, who happened to be looking in the chamber door, asking about breakfast, was very much alarmed when she saw her royal mamma in this state. Remembering where the smelling bottle was, she climbed on a chair and got it, and held the smelling bottle to the queen's nose. And after that, she jumped down and got some water. And after that, she jumped up again and wetted the queen's forehead. But that was not the worst of the good queen's illness. Oh no, she was very ill for a long time. The Princess Alicia kept the 17 younger princes and princesses quiet, and dressed and danced the baby, and made the kettle boil, and heated the soup, and swept the hearth, and nursed the queen, and was just busy, as busy could be, for there were not many servants at the palace, for 3 reasons. Because the king was short of money, because a rise in his office never seemed to come, and because bonus day was so far off that it looked almost as far off and as little as one of the stars. But on the morning when the queen fainted, where was the magic fishbone? Why, there it was in Alicia's pocket. She had almost taken it out to bring the queen to life again, when she put it back and looked for the smelling bottle. After the queen had come out of her swoon that morning and was dozing, the Princess Alicia hurried upstairs to tell a most particular secret to a most particularly confident friend of hers, who was the Duchess. People did suppose her to be a doll, but she was really a duchess, though nobody knew it except the princess. The most particular secret was the secret of the magic fishbone. The princess kneeled down by the bed on which the Duchess was laying, fully dressed and wide awake, and whispered the secret to her. The Duchess smiled and nodded. People might have supposed that she never smiled and nodded, but she often did, though nobody knew it except the princess. Then the Princess Alicia hurried downstairs again to keep watching in the queen's room. Every evening while the illness lasted, she sat there watching with the king. And every evening the king sat looking at her with a cross look, wondering why she never brought out the magic fishbone. One evening, when she wished him good night, the king said,
Alicia,
Yes, Papa.
what has become of the magic fishbone?
In my pocket, Papa.
I thought you had lost it
Oh, no, Papa.
or forgotten it.
No, indeed, Papa.
And after this, she ran upstairs, whispered the secret of the fishbone to the Duchess over again, and said to the Duchess besides,
They think we children never have a reason or a meaning.
And the Duchess winked her eye.
One time, the dreadful little snapping pug dog next door made a rush at one of the young princes as he stood on the steps coming home from school, and terrified him out of his wits. And he put his hand through a pane of glass, and it bled, and bled, and bled, and bled, and bled, and... When the 17 other young princes and princesses saw him bleed, and bleed, and bleed, and bleed, they were terrified out of their wits too, and they screamed themselves black in their 17 faces all at once. But the Princess Alicia put her hand over all of the 17 mouths, one after another, and persuaded them to be quiet because of the sick queen. And then she put the wounded prince's hand in a basin of fresh cold water, while they stared with their twice 17, or 34, put down the 4, carry the 3 and the 2, and eyes, yeah. And she looked in the hand for bits of glass. And fortunately, there was no bits of glass in there. And then she said to 2 chubby-legged princes who were sturdy though small,
Bring me in the royal rag bag. I must snip and stitch and cut and contrive.
And so these 2 young princes tugged at the royal rag bag and lugged it in, and the Princess Alicia sat on the floor, and she snipped and stitched and cut and contrived and made a bandage and put it on, and it fitted beautifully. And when she was all done, she saw the king, her papa, looking in on the door.
Alicia,
Yes, Papa.
what have you been doing?
Snipping, stitching, cutting, and contriving, Papa.
Where is the magic fishbone?
In my pocket, Papa.
I thought you had lost it
Oh, no, Papa.
or forgotten it.
No, indeed, Papa.
And after that she ran upstairs to the Duchess and told her what had passed, and told her the secret all over again, and the Duchess shook her flaxen curls and laughed with her rosy lips.
Well, and so another time the baby fell under the grate. The 17 young princes and princesses were used to it, for they were almost always falling under the grate or down the stairs.
Kids.
But the baby was not used to it yet, and it gave him a swelled face and a black eye. The way the poor little darling came to tumble was that he was out of the Princess Alicia's lap just as she was sitting in the great coarse apron that quite smothered her in front of the kitchen fire, beginning to peel the turnips for the broth for the dinner. And the way she came to be doing that was that the king's cook had run away that morning with her own true love, who was a very tall but very tipsy soldier. Then the 17 young princes and princesses, who cried at everything that happened, cried and roared.
Roar.
More crying. But the Princess Alicia quietly called them to be still on account of not throwing back the queen upstairs, who was fast getting well, and said,
Hold your tongues, you wicked little monkeys, every one of you, while I examine baby.
Then she examined baby and found that he hadn't broken anything, and she tended to his poor dear eye and smoothed his poor dear face, and he presently fell asleep in her arms. Then she said to the 17 princes and princesses,
I am afraid to let him down yet, lest he should wake and feel pain. Be good, and you shall all be cooks.
And they jumped for joy when they heard that and began making themselves cook's caps out of old newspapers. So, to one she gave the salt box, and to one she gave the barley, and to one she gave the herbs, and to one she gave the turnips, and to one she gave the carrots, to one she gave the onions, and to one she gave the spice box. Ooh. Till they were all cooks and all running about at work, she sitting in the middle, smothered in that great coarse apron, nursing baby. By and by, the broth was done, and the baby woke up smiling like an angel. When the broth came tumbling out, steaming beautifully and smelling like a nosegay, good to eat, they clapped their hands. Now that made the baby clap his hands, and his looking as if he had a comic toothache made all the princes and princesses laugh. So the Princess Alicia said,
Laugh and be good, and after dinner we will make him a nest on the floor in a corner, and he shall sit in his nest and see a dance of 18 cooks. Oh yes, you heard me.
Now that delighted the young princes and princesses, and they ate up all the broth and washed up all the plates and dishes, and then they in their cook's caps and the Princess Alicia in a smothering coarse apron that belonged to the cook that had run away with her own true love, that was a very tall but very tipsy soldier, danced the dance of 18 cooks before the angelic baby. so that the baby forgot his swelled face and his black eye and crowed with joy.
Gah.
And so then, once more, the Princess Alicia saw King Watkins the First, her father, standing in the doorway, looking on.
What have you been doing, Alicia?
Cooking and contriving, Papa.
What else have you been doing, Alicia?
Keeping the children light-hearted, Papa.
Where is the magic fishbone, Alicia?
In my pocket, Papa.
I thought you had lost it,
Oh, no, Papa.
or forgotten it.
No, indeed, Papa.
The king then sighed so heavily and seemed so low-spirited and sat down so miserably, leaning his head upon his hand and his elbow upon the kitchen table, that the 17 princes and princesses crept softly out of the kitchen and left him alone with the Princess Alicia and the angelic baby.
What's the matter, Papa?
I am dreadfully poor, my child.
No money at all, Papa?
None, my child.
Is there no way of getting any, Papa?
No way. I have tried very hard, and I have tried always.
When she heard those last words, the Princess Alicia began to put her hand into the pocket where she kept the magic fishbone.
Papa, when we have tried very hard and tried all ways, we must have done our very best.
No doubt, Alicia.
We have done our very, very best, Papa, and that is not enough. Then I think the right time must have come for asking help of others.
This was the very secret connected with the magic fishbone, which she had found out for herself from the good fairy Grand Marina's words, and which she had often whispered to her beautiful and fashionable friend, the Duchess. So she took out of her pocket the magic fishbone that had been dried and rubbed and polished till it shone like mother of pearl, and she gave it one little kiss and wished it was bonus day. And immediately it was bonus day, and the king's salary came rattling down the chimney and bounced into the middle of the floor. But this was not half of what happened. No, not a quarter. For immediately afterwards, the good fairy Grand Marina came riding in a carriage with 4 peacocks, with Mr. Pickles up behind, dressed in silver and gold, with a cocked hat, powdered hair, pink silk stockings, a jeweled cane, and a nosegay. Use your imagination. Down jumped Mr. Pickles with his cocked hat in hand and handed Grand Marina out. And there she stood, this charming old fairy, in her rich shot silk smelling of dried lavender, fanning herself with a sparkling fan.
Alicia, my dear, how do you do? I hope I see you pretty well. Give me a kiss. Are you good?
I hope so.
I suppose you know the reason now why my goddaughter here did not apply to the fishbone sooner. Ah, but you didn't then. Any more reasons to ask for?
No, and I am very sorry.
Be good then, and live happily ever afterwards.
Then Grand Marina waved her fan, and the queen came in most splendidly dressed. After that, the fairy tapped the Princess Alicia with her fan, and the smothering coarse apron flew away, and she appeared exquisitely dressed, like a little bride, with a wreath of orange flowers and a silver veil. After that, the angelic baby came in. With his face and eye not a bit the worse, but much the better. Then Grand Marina begged to be introduced to the Duchess. And a little whispering took place between the fairy, and then the fairy said out loud,
Yes, I thought she would have told you. We are going in search of Prince Certain Personio. The pleasure of your company is requested at church in half an hour precisely.
So she and the Princess Alicia got into the carriage, and Mr. Pickles handed in the Duchess, and then Mr. Pickles put up the steps and got up behind, and the peacocks flew away with their tails behind. Use your imaginations.
Prince Certain Personio was sitting by himself, eating barley sugar and waiting to be 90. When he saw the peacocks, followed by the carriage, coming in the window, it immediately occurred to him.
Something uncommon is going to happen.
Prince, I bring you your bride.
The moment the fairy said those words, Prince Certain Personio's face left off being sticky, and his jacket and corduroys changed to peach bloom velvet. His hair curled, and a cap and feather flew in like a bird and settled on his head. Imaginations were working on a budget. The marriage was beautiful beyond expression. Grand Marina gave the magnificent wedding feast afterward, in which there was everything and more to eat and everything and more to drink. The wedding cake was so delicately ornamented with white satin ribbons, frosted silver, white lilies, and 42 yards round. Just go with it. When Grand Marina had drunk her love to the young couple and Prince Certain Personio had given his speech, and everybody had cried,
Hip, 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 hip.
Grand Marina announced to the king and queen that in the future there would be 8 bonus days in every year, except for a leap year, where there would be 10. Then she turned around to Certain Personio and Alicia and said,
My dears, you will have 35 children, and they will all be good and beautiful. 17 of your children will be boys, and 18 will be girls. The hair of the whole of your children will curl naturally. They will never have the measles or mumps, and they will have recovered from the whooping cough before being born.
On hearing such great news, everybody cried out in celebration again.
Hip,
Hip,
hip.
hip, hurrah!
It only remains to make end of the fishbone.
And so she took it from the hand of Princess Alicia and instantly flew down the throat of a dreadful little snapping pug dog next door and choked him. And he expired in convulsions. The end.